Greetings and blessings, everyone. It is the FA Cup talk tonight for the most part of the conversation today as we do look ahead to what's coming. Manchester United traveling to take on Nottingham Forest, a team that ended our year badly, the year 2023. But after that, it was blessings after blessings because we went on to go unbeaten in 7 before just recently when Fulham just gave us a wake-up call. Welcome to the United Hotspot. My name is Webb, and of course, always glad to be here. Talk about Manchester United. Where are you catching us from? Drop in the comment section. There is a lot to discuss. There is a lot of news about Man United and players today. But the question is, can Manchester United win the FA Cup? In your view, do you think we've got what it takes to win the FA Cup? And I've also dropped a couple of polls for you. I'm going to be reading them for you in just a bit, but it will be rotating mostly around the FA Cup, but also the hot news that's coming from the club today concerning players who are wanted out, players who are almost guaranteed going to be leaving Manchester United. Indeed, what a time to talk this beloved club under the guidance of Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Welcome aboard. My name is Webb. In case you're catching me for the first time, that's my name. And today, I'm a purple guy. I'm a purple guy. Yeah, I'm a purple guy today. It's all right. I don't know what they say about the color purple, but I love it in some of these videos. Anyway, let's get proper into Hot United talk. But I'll start off with the polls yesterday. This was our poll from yesterday. I did ask you who is to blame for Man United's poor performances lately, and out of the 159 votes, 47% said Eric Ten Hag, 40% blamed it on the players, and 11% said the Glazers, while a few of you, 3%, said, I don't know. You don't know who should be blamed. So most of you feel Eric Ten Hag should be feeling the heat, and indeed, he's feeling the heat, as it is reported that Sir Jim and Ineos have given him an ultimatum on how he should perform, at least by the end of the season, if he is going to keep his job. But moving on to the poll today, this is what we asked you. I posted this a few minutes ago. I did ask you, in your view, would winning the FA Cup, which is a possibility for Man United, as we'll get to understand, but would winning the FA Cup and finishing outside the EPL top 4 be success for Manchester United? Would we call it a successful season if we won the FA Cup but finished outside the top 4 of the English Premier League? What in your view? Of course, we can still finish outside the top 4 by the way of the English Premier League and qualify for the Champions League. It could happen if we finished 5th. It is highly possible, highly likely that even the 5th place team in the English Premier League will play in the Champions League. But for United, I think top 4 is the ultimate target. We want to be sure of it now. Would we say it is success if we finished 5th, 6th, or anywhere outside, but won the FA Cup, which would qualify us automatically to the Europa? Let me know what you think in the poll section. Let me see, just sampling a few comments already that are there, or a few votes that are there. About 11 people have voted so far. 36% say yes, 64% so far say no, and no one has said fair enough. So 64% think that would not be success for Man United. Well, let me know what you think. Go down in the comment section and let me know. Anthony, well, there is talk today about Anthony and how Ineos have decided he should be sold and stuff. But Pip's boy has commented saying finishing in the top 4 is more important than winning the FA Cup. So if we don't finish in the top 4, to Pip's boy, that would not be success for Manchester United. Well, let's get proper into this United talk. My name is Webb once again. Welcome aboard. Always a pleasure. With a smile on my face, I'll be talking about this beloved club. Alfred Zendwe, right in time. Zambia is watching. How are you doing, Zambia? Alfred Zendwe, the purple looks nice on you. Oh, does it? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I thought it was a feminine color. If you say it looks nice on me, well, I should buy more purple for my closet. Namuteli Rita, me, I am in Oman, but a Ugandan. If something is done, we can still we can, but still impossible. If something like what should be done? Is it prayers? Should we pray more? I've got my Bible close to me here. I keep it close to me here. So should we pray to God? Should we buy new players? What should we do if we are going to win? Anes Kavuta saying that's the only hope. The only hope is in the FA Cup, according to Anes Kavuta. Now, here's the thing. We are in the 5th round of the FA Cup, and we do take on Nottingham Forest. That will be on Wednesday. That's the day after tomorrow. And Eric Ten Hag is expected to address the press tomorrow, giving us an update on the team news and what we should expect. Of course, we expect an update on Casemiro, who was off in that loss against Fulham because of a head knock. He was bleeding, so he was taken straight to the tunnel and for treatment. We'll get a clear update, but there are standards to follow when it comes to a concussion. Perhaps he did not suffer one, but anything involving the head is classified as critical. That's why we've had we have to be careful, how we handle him. That said, we do face a Nottingham Forest team, first of all, that whereas they have not been doing good even after bringing in Nuno as their new boss, Nottingham Forest are still 4 points off relegation in the Premier League. They are struggling. They were beaten by Aston Villa by 4-2. That should not, leave us resting on our laurels, because if you do recall, by the time they beat us in the final game of 2023, they had gone 12 games without a win, but they beat us. So this is almost they almost look like our bogey side. They almost are beginning to look like our bogey side if there is one this season. So Nottingham Forest is always not going to be an easy one. Of course, Anthony Elanga is one of those we'll be looking at, because he has probably got a grudge against Man United, considering how we let go of him, yet at the expense of players like Omari Foson and players he could have thought he was a little better than Anthony himself. If you ask me, on any day, Elanga was a better player than Anthony. But he will be facing us, and it is at home. So we are going away to Nottingham Forest, as United looks to make it a 14th consecutive time we make it out of this stage. We rarely lose at this stage, by the way. We always make it past this stage. But like I said, these records, history should not come out here and make us feel all confident and believing that we should be easily able to beat Nottingham Forest. For United, it's been clear. There are no easy games for Manchester United. There are no easy games. The last time we met Nottingham Forest at this stage was in 1990. And at that game, we came in an almost similar manner for Sir Alex Ferguson then, because he was also at the verge of being sacked. Remember, he had a bad start. That was about 4 years after he joined, because he joined Man United in 1986. But it took him years for him to cement himself there. He was given time. So there is also Eric Ten Hag is under almost similar circumstances, because the pressure is there, and Juan Robbins is the one who saved the day for Sir Alex Ferguson, and he wasn't fired after that. Before that, as they say, the rest is history. He went on to become one of the greatest managers. So history loves to rewrite itself in football. Maybe the one player will come and pull a miracle, pull a stunner to save Eric Ten Hag. Is the pressure on him? Maybe the boys will turn up and play PlayStation football, and we are convinced by how we play. And the guy stays and goes on to become the next biggest legend at Man United after Sir Alex Ferguson as a manager. So we don't know what story is about to be scripted, but it should be an exciting one. For us as fans of Man United, the expectation and hope is that we dominate and dispose of Nottingham Forest easily. Is that too much to ask? Obviously it is, considering the state we are in, the injuries we have, the players we miss, but also the lack of application we've shown in the last couple of games. So expect a tough game. Nottingham Forest themselves have not been that blazing in the FA Cup. They struggled to knock out Bristol City in the previous round, in the fourth round. They actually needed penalties to knock off Bristol City, a championship side, a third tier side. So it is definitely one of those games you go into with a confused mentality. But for Man United, I think the mentality should be taking every game, like Eric Ten Hag has been saying, as a final, going with our best A game to be able to obliterate any opponent. For me, that's the attitude we should take. Now, about the question I asked in the poll section, and whether winning the FA Cup would be, and the reality is, I think we can, because these cup tournaments, for me, it's about how you approach a game. It's a game at a time, how you approach it. It's not a marathon, a league that has a lot of dynamics to it. For cup games, you just get the right strategy, approach the game right, and bang, you can deal with it, because you beat a team, it's out. For me, we can win the FA Cup. I have no doubt about that. But question is, would that be success for Man United, considering the season? For me, honestly, and I've said it before, that even if we won the Premier League, for me, that would not be success for Man United. For me, right now, success for Man United would be how we perform, improvement in how we play football. having an identity, an improvement, or looking like we are building something that makes sense, that's visible for everyone to see. For me, that is what success would be for Man United. It's not positions where we finish. Even if we finished in the top four and won the FA Cup, or even finished second, even if we won the Premier League and the FA Cup, but just fumbling into victories the way we've been in the past games, I will still not be convinced with Eric Ten Hag. If the performances are the same way they have come, scrapped victories, I will still not be convinced, because for me, the state we are in, we need to build an identity of football that we play. For me, success for Man United would be how the brand of football, because it's a shaming of all clubs, by the way. If you think about it, of all clubs in the English Premier League, I think United is the only club without an identity, not big or small. Think about it. We can tell how Brentford plays. We know how Brighton plays. We know how Burnley plays. We know how Luton plays. We know their brand of football. They all have an identity. We know how Tottenham plays. We know the identity of Crystal Palace, even after sacking and changing managers. United might be the only team in the English Premier League without an identity. For me, that's a shame in this day and age. So for me, that's the most important thing. It's not the positions, because really, whereas we want to be in the Champions League, the reality is when you're restarting, and of course, because of our pride as Man United, we do want to be in the Champions League every day. But at times, we've got to swallow humble pie and say, if we don't make it there, it's understandable. We are not good enough to be there, but we can get back and get back stronger. Now, for me, honestly, I think success for Eric Ten Hag and Man United would be improving in the way we play, creating an identity. We are tired of going into games and after games, and pundits cannot describe what we play. Look at all the games we play. We struggle to play against the weakest opponents. So even if you win them, and you see winning games perhaps goes down at times to a quality of individual players. Rasmus Højlund, if he's up there, and you see there is clearly, you saw that the reason we won against Luton was because of Højlund, and the reason we lost against Fulham is because we lacked a player with the personality, with the character, with the quality, the individual brilliance of Rasmus Højlund to be able to put the Fulham defense under pressure. So we cannot be winning games like that. That's not Man United. For me, success for Eric Ten Hag would be improving and showing us that he's building something. Alfred Sendwe, if we have to keep Eric Ten Hag, then he shouldn't be part of the buying in the summer. The players he bought, they are all bad or non-inclusive. Maybe if we create a structure, he might excel. He has no style. His no style is another issue. Exactly. So the lack of style after 19 months, by the way, it's a big issue, because managers don't need all that too much time like that to create an identity. That's the biggest issue for him that he has got to deal with. So Ernest Kavuta is afraid because of what Eric Ten Hag is doing on the pitch. That's what Ernest Kavuta is saying. So for me, winning the FA Cup or not, Premier League top four or not, if we do not improve in how we play and we continue gambling into victories the way we've been for the most part of the season, trust me, even Sir Jim won't be convinced. Sir Jim won't be convinced. Of course, to give you news a bit about what's happening, by the way, Dan Ashworth, apparently the talks with Newcastle United are progressing good, and it is highly likely that Dan Ashworth could be confirmed next week, as early as next week. Now, that would be good, because of course, we cannot sit here and know how much time Ashworth will have to put a structure in place. But the fact that this is what he has been doing, he certainly has a template that will just fit, try change things around and fit into it. So probably, and Sir Jim is not a 10-year guy. He has got a short-term plan of 3 or 2 years, and you think he's bringing a guy who is established and well trusted and has done this stuff before. So it wouldn't take Dan Ashworth a lot of time to put something together. So maybe Eric Ten Hag has all the time to work with Ashworth and create something that works for him, maybe save his day by the end of the season in the event that is confirmed next week. Because there are quite a number of games to play until the end of the season. There is quite a number of games to play. So the reality is Dan Ashworth is coming in will ease a lot of pressure on Eric Ten Hag, because it will support him in terms of putting in place how the team is supposed to play. And Eric Ten Hag himself said it, like I've been saying it here before, that the way the team plays is set by the club, and the club wants proactive football, dynamic and stuff, which he says he's been trying to do. We've not seen it, honestly. He's been trying for so long, probably And is it why has it taken him so long to get results? For it to be seen, well, that we can debate about. But the reality is, Dan Ashworth is most likely going to be unveiled sooner rather than later. So it's a good thing to say that. Now, just to pause the FA Cup, talk for a bit. I'll get back to it. Just to give you some bit of news. What's happening now at Manchester United? Today I was on a long call conversing with some of my people, with some of my sources at Carrington, and it's interesting. When these people, start giving you the banter about what's going on at Carrington, it's extremely it's extremely interesting because what seems to be happening at Carrington now is what Ineos are doing is they are trying to make sure each player knows where they stand by the end of the season. So there won't be surprises for these players. And some of the things you're hearing that are leaking are perhaps largely true. So you don't think the stories I give you here are fake stories. So the banter is funny because some of this stuff at the club really know which players don't deserve to put on the badge because they have probably watched them and seen their attitude and facial expressions. But the way players are tense is interesting because they don't seem to have a clear idea of what Sajim is going to do because some of the things they see in the media. So you can imagine how they sleep. It's perhaps a good way to wake them up in a way. That's why I was a bit surprised by the lack of motivation in that game against Fulham. My thinking would be knowing what's going on would motivate players to die a little and put in the hard yards, but probably just perhaps destroyed them in a way because you saw players just running around and playing without application. It looked bad really. So what's going on at Carrington is quite laughable. But anyhow, so the news coming through is that Anthony Dos Santos will be sold. He will be put up for sale, and whoever comes to take him, it won't matter because the club is clearly intent on getting money. In fact, I've just seen a recent story that has come up just before I came here, saying that Ineos or Sir Jim Ratcliffe has instructed Omar Berada to free 1.9 million pounds in wages per week. Now, stars who have been earning, and I've been telling you this, guys, if you go back into all the videos, the live shows we've been doing, I've been telling you this stuff before these stories come up. How 11 players are going to leave, how no one is safe. I've been telling you this stuff. But now what we hear today now, there are figures to it, that about 1.9 million pounds in weekly wages is what Omar Berada has been instructed to save for Manchester United. Now, that would mean about, again, it goes maybe up to 11 of the players, or there about 7 or 8 players earn that amount of money. So those are the top earners, literally to say. And if you think about it, by the way, our top earners at Manchester United are the worst performing players. That's the funny thing. And it cannot be by coincidence that all your top earners are literally not performing at the same time. It shows you that the recruitment and distribution of wages has been wrong because usually when you're going into these conversations with players and signing players, you've got an idea of their longevity, of their lifespan. You have an idea, like when you're signing Casemiro, for example. We must have had an idea of, we're signing a 30-year-old player who has played at the topmost level for so long, won everything. Certainly, his lifespan was never going to be that long. So you cannot go into conversations with such a player and give them £340,000 per week. You see how bad these negotiators were at Man United. So you're giving a Casemiro, good as he were, by the way, at the time we brought him in and the impact he made last season. I think for me, the reason we are able to finish third is more about Casemiro than Ten Hag, the manager himself. Anyway, that is, again, could be a debate for another day. But the thing is, so you have Casemiro, and you're paying him over 300 and almost £340,000 per week, but you know that this guy's lifespan is going to be small. Now, what kind of negotiation is that? What exactly are you doing? So those are the players that Omar Berada is going to start with. So I have told him to free about 1.9 million. So if you look at players like Casemiro, who is earning nearly 320 or 340,000 pounds, Rafael Varane earning 340. Look at players like Marcus Rashford, who is earning close to coming to 350 or 400,000 pounds per week. Then you have Anthony, who is earning 200,000 pounds per week. You have players like Harry Maguire, who is earning about 190,000 or 200,000 pounds per week. Then you have players like Luke Shaw, who is earning, I think, 150,000 pounds per week. You have players like Anthony Martial, who is earning 250,000 pounds per week. Martial. You have Christian Eriksen, who is earning, I think, 120,000 pounds per week or thereabout. You have, so you see the players who are taking the biggest chunk of this money and how bad they are. And they're the obvious ones to leave. They are players we won't debate about. So it's a funny thing, but it's inevitable. So that's where we are. So an overhaul of the club is going to be inevitable because for anything we try to do to make sense, we are supposed to let go of most of these players. So Anthony is one of those who has been reportedly put up for sale, and of course Eric Ten Hag would not have wished for that to happen to his 86 million pound signing. But for now, things are beyond him. Even Ten Hag himself has his struggles to think about. He has a job on the line, and that's why lately he has been forced to keep Anthony on the bench and bring him on for 10 seconds and perhaps not even touch the ball. So it's a tight situation, guys, at Carrington. Things are becoming tough. So the younger players like who have felt sidelined, like Ahmad Diallo or the Pelistris, who is on loan, I think are having the last laugh as if because things are being dismantled. The Eric Ten Hag thing is being dismantled because he had created sort of a cult of himself, and he was Mr. Finish it all, was all in charge. But you see, football today has changed. It was not like back then where Sir Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger, and Jose Mourinho were the Mr. Finish it all, Mr. Call the shots. These days things are changed. So these players are having a bit of a laugh. But so that's Jadon Sancho. Add Jadon Sancho on the list of those players earning a lot of money. So you see that the rot has been beyond just the player, just the football. How are these players earning all this crazy money? Yet they are the first culprits to be exited, to be booted. Uh, Bruno himself is now also coming up on the list. It is said that Bruno is also being considered for a sale, and there are people. This one will create division, of course, in most of the United faithful. I like Bruno for his personality. I think he has got a good personality at least mostly off the pitch, but the reality is his levels have gone down terribly. It's worrying because for a player who was compared to Kevin De Bruyne in terms of stats up there with Kevin De Bruyne, there are debates about him and Martin Odegaard. And you see, whereas Odegaard may not have the stats that Bruno has, Odegaard is such an important player for Arsenal, extremely important. And you see the leader he is in terms of being captain. Honestly, Odegaard is a better captain than Bruno. In terms of impact he's made consistently for the team, Odegaard is consistently there. He's not your pronounced, and just like captains never be that sung, they're always unsung. But the reality is Bruno has dropped terribly in levels that it's worrying. And at a time, it's sad that he's dropping in his levels at the wrong time. The club is going into a change. Sajim is confirmed in. Club needs money. And Bruno knows that if your levels are not good enough, honestly, if you put Bruno up for sale, so many clubs would come and be willing to pay reasonable money. So would you blame Sajim if they wanted to sell him? So yeah, he has not done himself, any favors. And you can say maybe it's because of the team around him, but see, the thing is, he was playing and performing well before when the team was the same. So it's difficult to defend. Guys, it's a difficult situation at Man United. Rafael Varane is the other one still wanted. It has been mentioned that Al Ittihad in Saudi Arabia wants him, and they are willing to pay him 30 million euros per year. That's what they are willing to pay him. But he's saying he's 30. He's saying he wants to stay in Europe. So there are debates about whether he will leave because he's divided. He has to choose between leaving Man United or take a pay cut and stay. There was that allowance that if he takes a significant pay cut, he can stay because I told you he's earning about 340,000, one of the top earners. Now, obviously, perhaps Ineos will not be willing to give him even half of that. They obviously will not even be willing to give him half of that. So again, would he rather stay at United, take less than half of the pay cut, and rather more than half a pay cut and stay at United, or would he leave? But also, does Ineos really want to keep Varane? I think perhaps they most likely don't. So Varane could be leaving as well. So United are now looking as they do trim the squad, and I think they do now have an idea of which players they want to go. I think Omar Berada and his team have got an idea of which players they want to go. They are now looking out to see which players they want to bring in. And a striker is top of that. A striker is top of the list. So Alfred Semley is saying both Eric Ten Hag and the players don't know what they are doing. Imagine giving the style of play with Rashford, attitude, selfish Garnacho, frustrated Bruno, and old Casemiro. What a description. Interesting. I can only imagine, bro. Bashwa Kenzo is saying, hey, my guy. Hi, Bash. How are you doing, brother? Namutevi Rita is saying, telling them about the future won't affect the performance of remaining games because they will be like, after all, I'm going. No, I think for me, it's again, there are two ways to always two ways to a coin, but I think for me that level of transparency is good. You see, these players, one of the things players respect and love so much is that direct communication. It's very important for footballers when you communicate to them directly and let them know what's going on. All the issues footballers have with managers is managers who don't communicate. I'll tell you of how many stories I've heard about Rafael Benitez and why most of the players who played under him don't like him and don't respect him, especially at Liverpool, because he would never communicate. So same with Chelsea. You have a good game today, and he benches you for the next game without telling you why you're being benched. He will never communicate to players. And that's a bad thing. Players love it when you communicate to them. That's the reason why players loved uh, Sir Alex Ferguson. Players loved Jose Mourinho because they would communicate to you. They would tell you if you're not doing well. They would come to you and tell you why. They respect it. It's not good for you to manage players in oblivion. They always want to know what's going on. Because football is mostly mental, and you know how it's bad it's difficult to concentrate when there is no clarity in your head. It's very difficult. I think even with you, it's very difficult for you to work and give your best if you do not know, if you're uncertain, if there is uncertainty. So the atmosphere is always going to be bad, and it's difficult for you to deliver under such atmosphere. So for me, I think yes, maybe the players of today would not get it like that, but I think you've got to be brutal like that to a certain extent and tell players, of course, there is a good way to communicate it. Tell them, you know what, this is going to be your last. We want to put you up on sale so that they don't just see it in the news, in the media, on the United Hotspot. The player is seeing that Man United, Anthony, is learning from the United Hotspot that Man United has put him up for sale. Imagine, will he play football again? It's a bit challenging. So for me, I think it's okay. It just depends on how you communicate it. For the rest of the season, well, would that affect them and how they perform? Boss, if it does affect you, then if it does not motivate you to work hard and maybe hope you can save your season, or perhaps work harder so that you warrant a good move away, then you've got no future in football. Now, Bruno will improve, I'm sure, because he has proved it. Well, Bruno, I think, is one of those who can be given a chance, but also the fact that he's captain, it also sends a bad statement. If you if you just lose your captain like that in such a situation, and the first person among the first people you let go of is your captain, I think it looks a bit ugly on the club. So whereas Bruno is being targeted, I think he's not on the A list. I'm sure they must have created lists and tiers to these players, and so the first tier of those who are leaving: Antony, Varane, Marcus Rashford. I think that's tier one. Antony, Varane, maybe tier one, maybe myself might have Antony, Antony, then Anthony Marshall. Anthony Marshall. Tier one, I think, has two players repeated like 4 times. Then tier two, Marcus Rashford, Varane, Casemiro, and Eriksen, name them. I don't know, but I don't think Bruno would be on tier one. But I think he's one of those they look at, especially if a good offer comes, because we need money. Alex Kavuta, I remember when Raf said Man United needs heart surgery, open heart surgery. Exactly, this is what he meant. This is what he meant. This is what they call open heart surgery. Brutal. No stone will be left unturned. Open, split it open, but you see, open heart surgery, you need to be careful how you do it, because one simple mistake and you might just have a dead body on your hands. So yeah, open heart surgery is going on. but with a bit of care and responsibility, because we've got to be careful how we do it. But it's interesting. I think for me, it's a good time to watch and observe what Sajim is doing, how he does it. And guys, whatever Sajim is going to do, first think about if you can go back and refresh your mind on the because the last big club to have such an open heart surgery like this, change of ownership, because now the football is owned by a different person, and that was Chelsea with Ken Betts and Roman Abramovich. And you know what the story was. And for him, it even happened a bit fast. That's why few years owning Chelsea, he lives a legend. He created a beast of a club that people now, Chelsea supporters are beginning to overrate their club. They're even calling for the head of Mauricio Pochettino because he lost to kids. These Chelsea fans are overrating their small club. They think Chelsea is as big as Man U. Sad. It's so sad to see. Anyhow, so yeah, the last open heart surgery we had was at Chelsea with Roman Abramovich. So let's observe what Sajim is going to do with Man United. But it's interesting, and the beauty is it's obvious. Ours is a bit obvious. Everything, the players we need out are the same players you see who don't deserve to be at United are the same players. Most likely Sajim and Ineos feel should not be there. So it's going to be an easy one. The Glazers, I think, didn't have the interest, the technical know-how, and everything to make it happen. And to be honest, to give it to them, I think I love the decision to. I was there thinking. I was trying to think about this whole Glazers and what was the other guy's name? Sheikh Jassim, and now this Ineos thing, Sajim thing, and I was trying to think about it. And I'm at hindsight, I'm like, maybe it was actually the best decision for Man United to be given to Sajim, because I'm picturing a scenario if Sheikh Jassim came into Man U with all his money, would we still be so proud of Man U? The identity of the club being owned by these oil rich guys, and of course, even with financial fair play, perhaps the money would not make a lot of sense. But you see, what they would still do, we would still be in issues like Man City. You see, when you have a lot of money, it pushes you to do even illegal things, even if you wouldn't want to. When you have so much money, for some reason, you just believe that you can get things done according to your terms. So whether they are rules or what, you believe you can bypass them. And for me, that's why I think Man City is suffering. Even if they have done a commendable job in terms of the structure they put in place, hiring the right people, thinking maybe it was actually good for United not to be in the hands of a very rich guy who would probably also try to buy success, like we've been saying. Man City has bought their treble and stuff, because that's not United. For us, we don't buy stuff, dude. I think we work for this stuff. We are for the football. So that's why I was I'm saying that that was triggered by a colleague of mine who was still crying over spilled milk, saying that we should have had Sheikh Jassim instead of Sajim. I think that talk should be history now, because I love what Sajim is trying to do. He's proper managing things now, doing the business, doing the math and stuff. I think I would prefer this, honestly. I think I would prefer this. So I think by then we are focused more on the Glazers wanting them out than solving the football matters. And we thought them going out would be the solution. But if you put yourself in their shoes, this club was bought in record time by your father, and he hands it over to you. He dies. You're making a lot of money from this club without even any interest, without being there and following up. But the business is making a lot of money. Would you just lose it like that? I don't think so. It's a family legacy and stuff. So I think to them, if not to any businessman, I think they made the right business decision to choose to stay at the club. Whereas it's not what we wanted, we as the fans. But I think they could have chose the right guy in Sajim because of what we see he's doing and how things are going. So let's move on from Sheikh Jassim, and let's focus on Sajim, because the work has started now. If he's pointing at Anthony, pointing at all these players, introducing it works. I'm not sure the Premier League will approve it. And Sajim, this man is going to change things. Trust me, there is a precedent that's about to be set by Sajim. There is a precedent that's about to be set in the Premier League by Sir Jim. The way this guy is determined to do things different. Is it possible to sell the whole team? Well, I think 11 players leaving is literally selling the whole team. Didn't Chelsea literally sell the whole team? I think that's what they virtually did with Chelsea that season. I think how many players did Chelsea lose to the Saudi Pro League and these Qatar clubs? Didn't they lose near an entire squad? I'm struggling to remember which players stayed. This Senegalese goalkeeper left. The goalkeeper, the Koulibaly, they lost ZH, they lost man. I think Chelsea did it. So the only thing though for us, the reason why it's difficult for us to the bit is some of the players have run out of contracts, but the difficult bit would be that our players are not as attractive as Chelsea players were, that even clubs in Saudi would think twice about buying some of our players. But at least we hear now already Casemiro, Varane. No one is talking about Maguire, but I think at this point, if we wanted to sell Maguire, so many clubs would want to buy him, even in England. I think so. So Maguire, Martial, that one we wouldn't care really. His contract is running out, so he would go for free. Let him get his sign-on fee and continue earning his £250,000 or so, whatever. So yeah, it's possible. I think right now the circumstances are different. It's a bit possible to sell the 11 players, which virtually is like the whole squad. So it's very possible, and trust me, it will happen. It's going to by 2020, by the summer of 2025, we shall have a completely different Man United. We will not be able to identify some of these players. We will forget about some players. I'll tell you by 2025 in the summer, we won't know where Anthony is playing. We will forget that Anthony played for Man United. You see the way we forgot that Radamel Falcao played for United? Did you remember that Falcao played for Man United? So the way we forgot about Falcao, the way we forgot about Morgan Schneiderlin, you see those players who came at that time and somehow disappeared. We just forgot about them. You see the way Manucho, we forget that Manucho played for Man United. Trust me, by the summer of 2025, we will forget that there was a player called Anthony who played for Man. Maybe because of social media today, that meme will still be trending. The meme, the popular, infamous meme of his. But trust me, we'll have moved on. So yeah, there are players we are going to forget about easily. Alex Kavuta, according to his plans, it's really nice. I personally support him too. Yeah, I think it looks good what he's doing and how he's endearing himself to the supporters. His plan and that interview that he made, he speaks with confidence. I mean, like this rich guy who has a plan, and after negotiating for over a year, like he said, which he didn't like, he said he's not really a patient guy. And you see, he did not need to own that stake in Man United, Sajin. He did not need it. The guy is worth £30 billion. £30 billion. That's one of the richest men in the world. The richest man in the UK. £30 billion. Let me convert that to US dollars because most of you are more used to US dollars to get a proper understanding of how rich he is. 30 billion pounds to US dollars is like 38 billion US dollars. Now, this is one of the richest people in the world. So, for him, this money from Man United, Glazers would fetch out what, 25 million pounds per year from the club. That's peanuts to Sir Jim Ratcliffe. The man makes a lot of money from his petroleum, and he said it. That for him, that investment is not about the money. That's why he took charge of football operations. He wants to solve the football problem. He doesn't care. That's negligible money to him. He will not move his net worth by a flinch. It can't. So that's what we love. That he's a supporter of the club. You can see that he's a genuine supporter of the club, and he wants the best for it. So we just need to rally behind him because what he's doing for me seems to be heading in the right direction. And the fact that he hinted on the possibility of bringing back Mason Greenwood, trust me, you don't tell me nothing. You don't tell me nothing. This is the man to back. because Greenwood's return is what we've always wanted to hear. At least that this just him being open to the idea, even if he actually. But by the way, at this point, even if Greenwood didn't return, for me, just the fact that this man spoke sense in his first interview and spoke about Greenwood and spoke sense. He said we shall not make decisions based on hype, but on reason. Saying these are young kids who did not grow up with much, but they're earning a lot of money without proper guidance. Exactly the things I was saying here. And we cannot be blamed. They need guidance. Otherwise, they are prone to making such errors. For me, that is the mentality. And whatever happens after that, I don't care. At least Sajim, for me, Sajim wants Greenwood back. If it didn't goes on not to happen, maybe because the Glazers maybe will overpower him. But man, I don't think he paid 1.4 billion pounds to still be under the wings of the Glazers. I think he will have a proper full, and he said it himself. The Greenwood decision is my decision to make. Let me go back to the poll and see how many have voted and what they are saying. So the 20 votes so far. The question was, would winning the FA Cup and finishing outside the EPL top 4 be success for Man United? 40% say yes, 60% say no. 40% say yes, 60% say no. Press tomorrow. I think Casemiro will be out for some time. I think he's going to add to the long injury list. I think so. It doesn't look good. These head knocks never look good. But the FA Cup, I think, will be most important for Eric Ten Hag to save himself. I hope Kobe Maino, again, I want to say Kobe goal. I think the one thing that is going to make us move on from that humiliation, that sobering loss to Fulham, will be Kobe Maino scoring or a beautiful goal from Garnacho. But Kobe, I think because of how, I think Kobe is the one player who unites Man United right now, who unites us and just makes us forget our misery. If he has a good game, and I like the fact that he was rested a bit. He rested for some reasonable minutes in that game against Fulham. I liked that because, I mean, I thought he has played too much football and he needed some rest, really. I hope that he comes up and scores another beautiful stunner and puts on a very good performance. When Kobe performs well, I feel like there is a good energy around Man United lately. Don't you? I think it's that one good spark we always want to see. But also, the other thing I would want to see would be Amad Diallo getting his chance. Someone stated, and I was trying to research about it. Someone commented in one of my videos recently that one of the reasons why Amad Diallo does not play that much under Eric Ten Hag is because apparently his contract we have, when we were signing him from Atalanta, the terms were we were supposed to keep them, paying them money according to his performances. That is according to what was being said. I have tried to research about this. I'm not quite sure about it, but that would be sad if that is the kind of contract we negotiated with him. That with Atalanta, that we pay them more money according to how many games he plays. So that with the situation we are in, we don't have money. That is always going to affect how much he will play. That would be sad. I think it's an unfair contract to sign for a player to sign, or for them to be sold like that, because then the club that's buying you will always want to will look at you as a last option. You come in when there is no option, if that is the kind of contract. But again, we'll get the facts. I'm still trying to make my research about it. But that is what was said. Anyhow, I will leave it at this. There's something distracting me here. Let me just leave it at this. 45 minutes, I think is fair enough, guys. I'm going to leave it at that. I think we've spoken about the gist of it. We'll be here tomorrow. We'll be back here tomorrow as after Eric Ten Hag's press conference, so that we discuss, of course, the team and probable lineup and how we can bounce back. My name is Webb, guys. Have a good night.